You've already spent too much time waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for the right mood, waiting for life to calm down, waiting for the motivation to show up. But let me tell you something, waiting is the most expensive habit you'll ever have. Every dream you've delayed has already charged you interest. Every decision you postponed has already cost you opportunities. And every someday you've whispered has quietly stolen pieces of your future. Here's the truth. Most people don't fail because they tried and lost. They fail because they never tried at all. They spend years perfecting the art of almost starting, thinking, planning, imagining, talking, but never doing. And while they wait, time doesn't. Time moves whether you're ready or not. It doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't wait for your mood. It just moves relentlessly, quietly, and forever. And one day you'll wake up and realize the opportunity you were waiting for has already moved on. It found someone who was ready. You don't need more time, you need more urgency. You don't need more clarity, you need more courage. You don't need more someday. You need to decide that today is the day. You see, time is like a river. You can't step into the same water twice. Every moment that passes is gone forever. And yet, most people live as if they have an unlimited supply. They act as though time is something they can spend tomorrow. But here's the reality. The clock doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care about your potential. It just ticks. And one day, you'll either be grateful for what you did with it or you'll regret what you didn't. I used to be one of those people. I said, I'll start when I have more time. I'll start when I'm more confident. I'll start when I know exactly what to do. But that day never came because readiness is not a destination, it's a decision. My mentor once told me, Jim, if you wait until you're ready, you'll die waiting. That sentence changed everything for me because that's what most people do. They die waiting. They die with unstarted dreams, unfinished books, unsaid words, unlived lives. They don't die from failure, they die from hesitation. Let me tell you something powerful. Hesitation kills more dreams than rejection ever will. You can recover from a mistake, but you can't recover from never starting. You can rebuild from failure, but you can't rebuild from someday. And I want you to think about this tonight. Every day you hesitate, someone else is moving. Someone else is learning, acting, building. While you're thinking about what could go wrong, someone else is proving what can go right. That's the brutal beauty of life. It doesn't pause for indecision. While you're waiting for the stars to align, someone else is building their telescope. You see, the future doesn't belong to those who wait. It belongs to those who move. And here's the truth, you'll never feel ready. Readiness is an illusion created by fear. It tells you that safety exists somewhere down the road after you've prepared enough, studied enough, earned enough. But safety is a myth. There's only growth or decay. And if you're not moving forward, you're slowly falling behind. Now, let's talk about the real cost of waiting. Every delay compounds like interest. When you postpone growth, you don't just lose time, you lose momentum. You lose faith in yourself. You start believing your own excuses. I've met people who've been planning to start for 10 years. They've got notebooks full of goals, vision boards covered in dreams, courses they never finished, and stories they never told. They think they're preparing, but what they're really doing is hiding. Because preparation feels productive, but it's often procrastination in disguise. You don't need to prepare for the perfect start. You need to start and prepare along the way. I once told a young entrepreneur, the longer you wait, the colder your dream becomes. And it's true, momentum has a shelf life. Inspiration fades if you don't act on it. That's why so many people feel stuck. It's not because life has stopped, it's because they have. They're waiting for confidence, but confidence only comes after action. They're waiting for the right opportunity, but opportunity only comes to those already in motion. They're waiting for everything to be perfect, but perfection never arrives. It only disguises itself as postponement. And I get it. Waiting feels safe. It gives you the illusion of control. It makes you feel like you're protecting yourself from failure. But you're not protecting your future. You're paralyzing it. You're not avoiding pain. You're guaranteeing regret. Because regret doesn't hit you when you fail. It hits you when you realize you never even tried. So here's my question to you. How many more seasons are you going to spend waiting for life to begin? How many more years will you trade for excuses? How many more times will you say soon before you realize soon has stolen now? I want you to imagine something. Imagine meeting your future self 10 years from now. He's looking at you, same face, same eyes, but with a sadness that can't be hidden. He says, I would have been richer, stronger, freer, If only you had started when you said you would. That's the cost of waiting. It's not measured in hours, it's measured in potential. And here's the tragedy. Most people don't realize they're losing until it's too late. They think waiting is neutral. It's not. Waiting is negative. It erodes your energy, your discipline, your hunger. It trains you to believe that later is a safe option, but later is the enemy of better. And let me tell you, time is not patient. It rewards urgency. It respects action. It honors those who move. You can spend your life getting ready, or you can spend it getting results, but you can't do both. So tonight, make a decision. Not tomorrow, not next month, now. Because there's a reason you're hearing this message at this exact moment. Maybe this is the moment you stop being the person who plans and become the person who begins. Maybe this is the night your story changes, not because the world did, but because you finally did. And from that moment on, life begins to open in ways you never imagined. Doors appear where there were walls. Strength appears where there was fear. Clarity appears where there was confusion. Because life doesn't reward those who wait, it rewards those who move. You've already spent too much time waiting, and the clock isn't slowing down. The only question left is, will you? The greatest tragedy in life is not death, it's the unlived life. It's the life you could have had, the person you could have become, the dreams you could have built, if only you hadn't waited. And here's the truth, waiting looks harmless, but it's the most destructive habit of all. It slowly steals your future one silent day at a time. Waiting costs more than money. It costs momentum. It costs confidence. It costs time, and time once spent is never refundable. You see, people think waiting is safe. They say, I'll start when things settle down. I'll move when I'm ready. But nothing ever truly settles. Life doesn't pause to let you catch up. The longer you wait, the heavier starting becomes. Here's the law of time. The price of waiting increases every day you delay. If you start today, it costs discomfort. If you start next year, it costs regret. If you wait 5 years, it costs opportunity. And if you wait 10, it costs identity, because by then you're no longer the same person. The fire that once burned in you has gone cold. That's the invisible tax of hesitation. You don't see the bill until years later, and by then it's too late to pay it back. Now, let's talk about the illusions that make people wait, because nobody sets out to waste their life. They're just deceived by ideas that sound reasonable but kill quietly. The first illusion is the illusion of someday. Someday is the most dangerous word in the English language. It sounds innocent, hopeful even, but someday is a lie. Someday I'll start the business. Someday I'll get serious about my health. Someday I'll fix that relationship. But someday is not a day on the calendar. It's a mental mirage that keeps you comfortable today and regretful tomorrow. The truth is, someday never comes. It just keeps moving further into the distance, always one excuse away. And by the time you realize it, your best years are gone. Here's the truth. The longer you say someday, the further you drift from someday actually happening. So instead of saying someday, start saying today. Not because today is convenient, but because today is real. Now, the second illusion, the illusion of readiness. So many people tell me, Jim, I'm not ready yet. And I tell them, neither was I. Nobody is ever ready for the next level. That's why it's called the next level. If you wait until you're confident, you'll never start. Because confidence doesn't come before courage. It comes from courage. You don't get stronger before lifting the weight. You get stronger by lifting it. You don't get experience before trying. You get experience by trying. That's the beauty of life. You grow by going. People say, when I feel ready, I'll act. But the truth is, when you act, you start to feel ready. Readiness isn't a state, it's a signal. It's life testing your willingness to trust yourself. And that's why so few people ever reach their potential. They confuse readiness with safety. But safety doesn't exist. Even standing still is dangerous because the world keeps moving. The third illusion is the illusion of time abundance. People say, I've got time. No, you have moments and they're disappearing. You think you have time because you're young, but youth is the greatest illusion of time. Every day you delay is one day closer to regret. Jim Rohn once said, days are expensive. When you spend one, you have one less to spend. Make sure you spend it wisely. You can earn back money, rebuild relationships, restore health, but you can never reclaim time. Once it's gone, it's gone. And here's what's even scarier. You never know how much time you actually have left. People think tomorrow is guaranteed, but it's not promised to anyone. Every minute you waste in hesitation is the minute someone else uses to move ahead. Time doesn't feel urgent until it's almost gone. That's why people change only after tragedy, when they realize how short life truly is. But wisdom means changing before you're forced to. The fourth illusion is the illusion of the perfect moment. I'll start when things are better. I'll start when I have more money, more clarity, more support. Let me save you a lifetime of waiting. There is no perfect time. Perfection is the enemy of progress. It's the lie that convinces you to delay the good while chasing the impossible. If you can't start imperfectly, you'll never start at all. Every master began messy. Every success began scared. Every empire began uncertain. You don't need everything lined up. You just need to line yourself up with action. Because action creates momentum. Momentum builds clarity. Clarity creates confidence. And confidence fuels action. That's how the cycle of success begins. You can't think your way into greatness. You act your way there. Let me ask you a question. What has waiting already cost you? How many ideas have died on your notepad? How many dreams have expired in your journals? How many opportunities have you talked yourself out of? If you're honest, you'll realize the pain of waiting is far greater than the pain of failing. Failure teaches you something. Waiting teaches you nothing. At least when you fail, you're moving, you're learning, you're alive. But waiting, it numbs your instincts. It shrinks your confidence. It keeps you stuck in a mental purgatory between fear and frustration. And here's the hardest truth. Waiting becomes a habit. You start to normalize it. You convince yourself that your dream will still be there when you're ready. But dreams decay when neglected. Passion fades when postponed. Every time you choose to wait, you weaken your belief that you can. And the worst part, life rewards action, not intention. It doesn't care how many goals you write down or how many times you say one day. It only responds to movement. Opportunity doesn't visit those who are thinking about it. It visits those already building. So if you've been waiting for permission, this is it. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. If you've been waiting for certainty, it will never come. And that's okay, because life isn't meant to be certain, it's meant to be lived. The only way to honor your potential is to act on it, not later, not when it's perfect, but now while the fire is still warm, while the heart is still beating, while the idea is still alive. Because the most painful words you can ever say are, I could have, but I didn't. You've already spent too much time waiting. It's time to stop asking what if and start creating what is. If you spent too much time waiting, the only way out is to shift, to make a deliberate change in how you think, how you decide, and how you move. Because you can't escape a habit by willpower, you escape it by replacement. Waiting is a mindset, it's a philosophy of delay. And the only cure for delay is direction. There are 4 shifts that will turn waiting into winning. The first shift is from fear to focus. Fear will paralyze you. Focus will mobilize you. Most people don't move because they fear what could go wrong. But winners focus on what could go right. Fear says, what if I fail? Focus says, what if I grow? Fear says, I'm not ready. Focus says, I'll figure it out. You see, fear feeds on attention. The more you think about what might happen, the more real it becomes in your imagination. But focus feeds on intention. It pulls your energy forward into action. You can't wait your way out of fear. You can only act your way through it. Courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you move while afraid. And here's the truth, fear never leaves. It just gets quieter when you get stronger. The problem isn't that you feel fear. The problem is that you let it decide the pace of your progress. So the next time you hesitate, remind yourself, you don't need to eliminate fear, you just need to outwork it. Action is the antidote to anxiety. Every small step you take builds evidence that you can. Because confidence isn't built in theory, it's built in motion. Now, the second shift is from perfection to progress. Waiting often wears a mask called perfectionism. You tell yourself, I'm not ready because it's not perfect yet. But perfection is just fear dressed up as productivity. You polish, plan, prepare, and you convince yourself you're progressing, but you're not. You're just perfecting the plan instead of practicing the path. Here's a truth I learned early in my career. Progress creates clarity. Perfection creates paralysis. When you move, you learn. When you wait, you lose momentum. I've seen people plan for months, even years, and still never start because they're waiting for the stars to align. But winners know that the stars align after you move, not before. It's like steering a ship. You can't turn it while it's docked. You have to leave the harbor first. So stop asking what's the best way and start asking what's the next step. Because the best way always reveals itself after the next step. You don't need to see the entire path to take the first step. You just need to trust that the next step will appear once you move. That's what faith looks like, not religion, but resilience. It's believing in the path even when the map isn't clear. Now, the third shift, from passive waiting to purposeful working. There's a difference between waiting for something and working towards something. When you're waiting for something, you hand over your power. You put your future in someone else's pocket, the boss, the system, the economy, the weather, the world. But when you're working towards something, you take your power back. The man who waits says, I'll see what happens. The man who works says, I'll make it happen. Waiting is wishing. Working is building. You see, life respects movement. Even a small action creates ripples that shift everything around you. I remember a young man telling me, Jim, I'm waiting for a sign. I said, you already got one, the fact that you're uncomfortable. Discomfort is the sign. It's life's way of saying, move now. You don't need another signal, you need a system. You need routines that force you into forward motion even when you don't feel like it. Because feelings are unreliable, but structure is unbreakable. If you can develop a daily habit of progress, just one small discipline practiced consistently, you'll outrun everyone still waiting for the right time. The goal isn't to make giant leaps. It's to never stop taking small steps, because consistency beats intensity every time. And here's what happens when you start working, life starts cooperating. Opportunities start appearing, people start noticing, momentum starts multiplying, because the universe moves in favor of motion. That's why I tell people, don't wait for inspiration to start working to find inspiration. Movement creates motivation. Motion creates meaning. Now, the fourth shift, from hoping for change to becoming the change. You've probably heard people say, I hope things get better. But hoping is not a strategy. Hoping is passive. It's another form of waiting. Don't hope for better circumstances. Create better standards. Don't wish for fewer problems. Build greater skills. Don't pray for easier days. Develop stronger discipline. Because here's the truth, life doesn't improve by chance. It improves by change. If you want things to be different, you have to be different. That's the ultimate shift from hoping the world changes to becoming the kind of person who can thrive no matter what the world does. The world will always have challenges, chaos, uncertainty. You can't control that, but you can control your response. When you stop waiting for external change and start becoming internal strength, everything transforms. Your philosophy shapes your future, your habits shape your destiny, and your decisions shape your days. So stop waiting for life to change. Start changing your life. Because every day you wait for someday, you're teaching your mind that someday is acceptable, and it's not. Here's the truth. The bridge between waiting and winning is built with action. And the first plank of that bridge is self-discipline. Discipline is the proof that you've decided. It's what turns intention into identity. Every time you act despite fear, you reinforce a new belief. I'm someone who moves. Every time you act despite doubt, you strengthen the muscle of confidence. Before long, your old identity, the one that waited, hesitated, and procrastinated, starts to fade. And a new version of you begins to emerge. A doer, a builder, a creator, someone who no longer asks, when will it be the right time? But instead says, I make time right by what I do. That's how transformation happens, not through waiting, but through working. Not through hoping, but through habit. And once you cross that line, something beautiful happens. You stop counting days, and days start counting you. Time begins to work with you instead of against you. Because when you move with purpose, time becomes your ally, not your enemy. And soon, what used to feel impossible becomes inevitable. That's the power of shifting from waiting to winning. You've already spent too much time waiting for life to begin. Maybe it's time to prove that life begins the moment you decide it does. I've lived long enough to see both kinds of people, those who wait and those who move. And I can tell you the distance between them grows wider with every year that passes. The people who wait always have good reasons. They say, I'm not ready. They say, I'm waiting for a sign. They say, I just need a little more time. And they mean well, they really do. But life doesn't reward good intentions. It rewards movement. You can have the best plan, the purest heart, and the most beautiful dream, but if you never take the first step, the world will never know you existed. Meanwhile, the people who move aren't smarter or luckier. They just got tired of their own excuses. They got sick of watching the clock tick while their dreams stood still. They decided that discomfort now is better than regret later. Let me tell you something I've seen too many times. People who wait end up spending their lives in a holding pattern, circling the same problems, making the same promises, repeating the same phrase. One day, I'll get there. But one day becomes someday, and someday becomes never. And by the time they realize that the world has moved on, the opportunities have expired, the people they once admired have already built what they were still talking about. I remember a man I met years ago. His name was Alan. He was bright, talented, full of potential. Every time I saw him, he had a new idea. He wanted to start a business, write a book, lead a seminar. But every time I asked how it was going, he said the same thing. Not yet, Jim. I'm still figuring things out. He was always preparing, but never producing. 5 years later, I met him again, and nothing had changed. His ideas were still on paper. His dreams were still in progress. His confidence, however, was gone. He said, Jim, I think my time has passed. And I looked at him and said, Alan, your time didn't pass, you did. You see, life doesn't take away your potential, it just gives it to someone else who's willing to use it. For every Alan who waits, there's a Sarah who moves. Sarah doesn't have all the answers, but she has action. She doesn't know everything, but she knows enough to begin. She doesn't wait for confidence, she builds it by doing. And 5 years later, Sarah isn't just successful, she's transformed. Not because life favored her, but because she honored it. Life respects the mover. You'll never meet a successful person who says, I waited until I was ready. You'll only meet people who say, I started before I was. I've watched employees who kept saying, when they promote me, I'll work harder. And I've watched others say, I'll work harder, and they'll have no choice but to promote me. One waited for permission, the other created proof. Guess which one won? Life is not fair, but it is faithful. It gives back what you give to it. And that's why the people who move end up rewriting the rules. They don't wait for opportunities, they make them. They don't wait for doors, they build them. I remember another story, a young woman named Rebecca. She wanted to become a speaker. She came to me once and said, Jim, I want to do what you do. I asked, how many speeches have you given? She said, none. I said, then start tonight. Talk to 3 friends. Tell them your story. She hesitated. She said, but I'm scared. I said, good. That means you care. Fear is the signal you're doing something meaningful. A year later, I got a letter from her. She had given over 50 talks. She said, I'm still scared every time, but now I know how to move through it. You see, her success didn't come from waiting to feel brave. It came from moving while she was afraid. That's the difference between the people who wait and the people who move. The ones who move don't need guarantees. They just need a reason. And here's the secret. Once you move, life meets you halfway. When you take the first step, new people appear, new ideas arrive, doors open that you couldn't even see before. Because action changes your vision. It changes what's possible. I tell people all the time, motion reveals what waiting conceals. The people who wait never find clarity because clarity only exists on the other side of commitment. If you've been waiting for your purpose, you'll never find it sitting still. You find it by serving, by creating, by experimenting, by living. Purpose is not discovered, it's developed. And you can't develop what you never start. Now, I've also seen something else, the cruel cost of waiting too long. I've seen men reach their 60s, look back and say, I thought I had more time. They weren't lazy, they were just indecisive. They mistook patience for procrastination. And here's the hardest truth I've ever had to tell someone. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start, not because the opportunity disappears, but because your belief does. Waiting drains the soul. It convinces you that time is on your side when it's really slipping through your fingers. But movement restores belief. It wakes up your spirit. It reminds you that you're alive. I've seen people in their 50s reinvent themselves completely, not because they had more time, but because they stopped waiting for perfect conditions. One man told me, Jim, I wasted 20 years waiting for everything to make sense. The moment I stopped trying to understand everything and just started doing something, everything started making sense. That's the magic of action. It brings meaning to confusion. So ask yourself, which person do you want to be remembered as? The one who waited or the one who moved? The one who said someday or the one who said today? Because life will write your story. Either way, the only question is who's holding the pen. And I can promise you this, if you don't pick it up, time will write the ending for you. There's nothing sadder than seeing a person who had all the ingredients for greatness but never baked the cake. You don't want to be the one who looks back and says, I was always close. Close doesn't count, movement does. Every day you move, you build a bridge between your dreams and your reality. Every day you wait, you burn a piece of that bridge. And one day you'll find yourself standing on the wrong side of a river that only action could have crossed. But if you decide to move, even now, life will meet you with new energy. Because progress doesn't care when you start. It only cares that you do. You've already spent too much time waiting. The past can't be changed, but the present can redeem it. And the only way to honor the time you've lost is to stop losing more. You've already spent too much time waiting. And here's the truth, my friend, life is running out of patience. The clock doesn't pause for hesitation. The years don't stop because you're unsure. The opportunities you've been praying for, they don't knock twice. And that's why today, not tomorrow, not someday today must become your turning point. Because at some point, you must stop planning your life and start living it. You've taken enough notes, you've watched enough videos, you've gathered enough inspiration, you've prayed, dreamed, thought, and prepared enough. Now it's time to move. The world doesn't need another dreamer waiting for the perfect moment. It needs a doer who dares to create one. If you wait for the fear to leave, you'll wait forever. If you wait for the confidence to rise, you'll grow old before it does. And if you wait for the timing to be right, you'll discover that time itself has already moved on. So don't wait for courage, act, and courage will follow. Don't wait for clarity, move, and clarity will appear. Don't wait for permission, begin, and the world will notice. Because action has a magic that thought will never have. The universe responds to movement. It opens doors, introduces people, and rearranges circumstances for those who step forward. But it hides its treasures from those who hesitate. I've seen it happen too many times. The moment someone truly commits, life starts cooperating. It's almost as if the world was waiting for them to stop waiting. That's the irony. The opportunity you've been waiting for has been waiting for you. But it won't wait forever. So this is your wake-up call. Start before you're ready, because you'll never be ready. Ready is a mirage the mind creates to protect itself from growth. Growth is uncomfortable. Progress is messy. But nothing changes until you decide to walk through that discomfort and make it home. The moment you do, everything else begins to move with you. You'll find momentum in places that used to scare you. You'll discover strength you didn't know you had. You'll attract people and opportunities that match your new level of commitment. That's how life works. It doesn't reward desire, it rewards decision. So decide today, not to be perfect, but to be present. Not to know everything, but to do something. Not to wait for confidence, but to create it through courage. Because your future self is begging you, stop wasting time. He's waiting on the other side of your hesitation, shouting across the years, please, don't let fear steal the life we were meant to live. You've already spent too much time thinking about what could go wrong. Start thinking about what could go right. You've spent too much time revisiting old excuses. Start rewriting a new story. You've spent too much time imagining the climb. Start taking the first step, because the climb isn't as hard as the wait. Every second you spend doubting is a second stolen from doing. Every minute you spend worrying is a minute robbed from winning. And every hour you spend wishing is an hour wasted when you could be working. If you only knew how quickly life changes when you move, you'd stop hesitating right now. If you only knew what's waiting for you beyond fear, you'd stop entertaining it. There's a power that awakens inside you the moment you decide. It's the shift from victim to victor, from dreamer to doer, from potential to purpose. And here's the truth, that decision doesn't need applause or validation or witnesses. It just needs you. You don't have to shout it. You just have to show up. You don't need to be great to begin, but you must begin to be great. That's the law of life. That's the truth every achiever eventually learns. It's not the plan that changes your life, it's the start. The moment you move, the moment you stop letting fear write your schedule, life begins to rearrange itself around your effort. Because effort attracts energy. Energy attracts opportunity. And opportunity attracts transformation. That's why you can't afford to wait another day. You've already spent too much time waiting for life to begin, but life has been waiting for you to begin it. So start. Start small, start scared, start messy, but start. Write one page, make one call, learn one skill, take one step. Because every great chapter begins with a single sentence. And that single sentence could be written today if you stop waiting for someday. Someday isn't coming, but you can go to it. You can meet your future halfway by deciding that this moment is enough, that you are enough to begin. Because every day you hesitate, your dream grows colder. But every day you act, your fire grows stronger. The difference between a life of regret and a life of purpose isn't luck, it's timing. And the right time is now. Don't let another sunrise find you unprepared. Don't let another night end with the same excuses. Don't let the years keep passing while you keep planning. At some point, you have to decide, this is the moment I stop waiting. So take a breath, look around you. Everything you need to begin is already within reach. You don't need a new calendar, you need a new commitment. You don't need a new plan, you need to stop postponing the one you already have. You don't need a new dream, you need to wake up to the one that's been waiting for you all along. And when you do, you'll realize something profound. You were never really waiting for time. Time was waiting for you. Waiting to see if you'd have the courage to finally move. Waiting to see if you'd have the wisdom to finally decide. Waiting to see if you'd become the person who no longer needs to wait. And that's when everything changes. Because the world belongs to those who act. So stop waiting. Start living. Stop wishing. Start working. Stop planning. Start performing. Because your life isn't measured by how long you wait. It's measured by how far you're willing to go. You've already spent too much time waiting. Now it's time to make the rest of your time count. Start before you're ready. Move before you're sure. Act before you're perfect. And one day when you look back, you'll realize that moment, this moment, was the one that changed everything. The day you stopped waiting was the day you started winning.